So we are going live. It's being recorded automatically.
Okay.
Good evening, friends. It's always a challenge to understand that how do you build a team and retain a team. These two facets are of the same coin, but how do you do that? It's always one wants to understand that. And who else can better explain than Major General Neeraj Bali, who is known for his soft skills coaching while he was in the army and thereafter. You all know that he's a Sena Medal, and then he's a life and leadership coach. And of late, he's also writing a book. Plus, he has taken various articles which have been published in different newspapers. In one of the sessions by a close friend of mine, Mr. Navdeep Singh, had helped me to connect with him. And that day itself, a lot of participants asked us that why don't you bring Major General Neeraj Bali when he knows how to hammer the things. And that made us connect with him. And it's always a pleasure learning from a person who has his personal experiences, how to build a team and how to retain that team. I request Major General Neeraj Bali to take over the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Vikas. Thanks for the opportunity. Now, let us look at the topic of this talk. Secrets of building teams and retaining teams. So, I mean, is there a secret to it? The fact of the matter is that all my life, especially after I was retired and I've been CEO of 2 different companies, I have heard countless people talk about teamwork, team building, team management, and so on and so forth. And more often than not, what I hear is we lack teamwork, we lack coordination, we lack cooperation. People don't assist each other. I hear this even from top management all the time. So there's got to be a secret to it. And why do I say secret? Because I come from an organization, the Indian Army, which thrives on teamwork. We would be nothing without teamwork. All right. So therefore, let me say that surely there are some secrets. Maybe those secrets are in plain sight. Maybe we all know it. Maybe we don't. Maybe our lack of awareness or ego doesn't let us learn from there. Let me start by asking this question. Why do we need this teamwork at all? Some of us are working with just 2 people or 3 people. Why do we need teamwork? The answer is obvious. There is nothing you can achieve alone. And because you are the head of something, even if you are in charge of a lift and you have 2 people working under you, you are, in the language of in the army, you are some sort of a commander, you are some sort of a team leader. If you want to achieve something, you know you require a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice to get there. But does your team understand that? In a world where everybody seems to be working for money, for the salary at the end of the month, or for appraisal, does your team understand? Do they have the same passion, the same goal, the same thing that you as the team leader or the owner or the manager or the managing director have? And that is why you need to learn these, what I call these secrets. Now, first of all, what does a champion team look like? You know, everybody can look good on a good day. When things are going well, you're sitting in a drawing room, a living room, you're sitting in a bar, you're chatting around, everything looks nice. Everyone can be nice. But champion teams are the ones that look good on bad days, which are willing to hold their own and produce results. A little bit like, take your mind back again, like the Indian Army. We're not meant for the best days. We are meant for the worst days. Secondly, champion teams believe in themselves. They believe that in the end, no matter what happens, they will win. Thirdly, and this is very important, every member of champion teams looks after each other. You know, one of the biggest problems we have in the corporate sector, when I say we, because I find myself a part of the corporate sector, is that we treat every relationship as transactional. आज मेरे को आपसे काम है तो मैं आपसे काम निकाल रहा हूँ. आज मैं team leader हूँ तो I am behaving with you. Tomorrow I am going to forget you. Today you are part of my project. We are buddies. And after that it's over. Every relationship in the army is relational. Right now on this talk, I can see a few of my colleagues who I hesitate to call my colleagues. They're like family members. The relations just remain. And finally, the members of a good team, a champion team, like coming to work. Now, if you're a boss, ask yourself, do your members like coming to work? Do you like coming to work? Or do you get up every morning and when you're getting into the car or a metro, you say, पता नहीं कहाँ फंस गया आज, एक और दिन का मुसीबत है. Right? So this is the big difference between how a great team feels and how everyday teams feel. Right. Before I go any further, the other thing I hear all the time is, I would have done great if I had a great team. What is a great team? I'll tell you from my life's experience what is a great team. If you have 5% to 10% outstanding members and 85 to 90% members who are all right, good, hardworking, who can be improved, can be trained, and 5% trouble creators who will never change, you should go to the temple or the Gurdwara, wherever you want to go, and thank the Lord. That is the best team you will get. I don't understand leaders who say, I wish I had a better team. I wish, then I would have been, then why do we need you? Leaders are required to pull up that 80 to 85% people who are there, who have the goods, who have the potential, and who can be improved. Please take this as a template. 5% people to 10% people, if you have great, you got to be thankful. You got it made. All right. Let me start with a story. There are going to be a number of stories today, so pay attention. Let me start with a story about a teamwork. This story goes all the way back to 1990s. This is the area of Kupwara in J&K, and it's along the borders. It's a particular Rajrif battalion, Rajputana Rifles battalion. And there's a young second lieutenant, 21-year-old or a lieutenant by the name of Padmapani Acharya. He's given the task to go along the ridge line, which is full of snow, by the way. It's 12,500 feet and above. You can barely walk without getting out of breath. It's full of snow. And he's told, take 10 people, 10 soldiers, and go from one point to the other. It'll take you 2 days, 1 day to go, another day to come. And just to make sure that there are no Pakistanis infiltrating across the line of control. So young Acharya sets out on his mission. And the moment they leave, the weather becomes terrible. It starts snowing heavily. Visibility is next to nil. They can't even see each other. But of course, they carry on moving. They're moving in a single file, which means in one line. And who do you think is in front? Lieutenant Acharya. This is not the tactics. As per the tactical teaching, it's not the commander who's supposed to be number one. I want you to pay attention to this because I'll come back to some lessons. So Acharya is right in front because the visibility is bad. Nobody can see anything. So he's leading the team physically. And then after about half a day, they discover that half the team is lost. There are only 5 people left. And 5 people have just got separated and they are lost in some blizzard. So they talk to each other and Acharya says, let's turn around and locate those 5. When you turn around, you can't even see your footsteps. But maintaining a certain direction, they start looking around. In the meanwhile, the radio set of the team dies. When it is very cold, the batteries tend to die quickly. And the team now the patrol is now out of contact with the battalion. So the commanding officer, when he discovers after a day that they can't talk to the patrol, he says, I'm going to launch another patrol in the same bad weather to find the first one. But his boss, the commander, says, don't do it. It's foolhardy. Nobody can see anything right now. You will be risking 10 more people. But the commanding officer says, I'm sorry, I'm going to disregard your instructions. I am going to launch a team because in the army, you do not leave anybody behind. So a second patrol is also launched. In the meanwhile, Acharya's patrol, the 5 people, find the remaining 5 people. They try to make progress. Things get worse. And finally, the night falls. And what do you think they do at night? In order to make sure that they don't get buried under the snow, they sit in a circle and Acharya says, let's keep gently slapping each other so that we stay awake. Remember, this was a 2-day patrol. This goes on for 7 days. Obviously, they would have run out of food. For 7 days, the situation, it remained deteriorated and things kept getting bad. Now, after 7 days, when the weather cleared a little, Acharya said, maybe somebody will see us from another ridge. So you know what he does? He takes his clothes off, takes off the dry part of the clothes and sets them on fire to attract attention. And sure enough, the second patrol sees this and these people are finally located and they are contacted and they all come back hungry, tired, sleep deprived, but in high spirits. Now, I told you this story because it has some lessons. The first is, in a great team, everybody takes care of each other. All right. Now, whatever I'm telling you is not some political talk. It's not some sweet sounding jalebi type of talk कि बोलने में अच्छी लगती है, सुनने में अच्छी लगती है, लेकिन एक्चुअल में तो हम नहीं कर सकते क्योंकि हम तो फौजी नहीं हैं. I'll come to that. It's a reality. If you're not going to take care of each other, forget about having a good team. Secondly, no matter what happens, you got to stick to your objective. Good teams don't give up. And third thing, which is the most important lesson for each person listening today, there can be no good team without great leadership. So first onus of creating a great team is directly onto you. Are you willing to be Lieutenant Padmapani Acharya or not? If you're not, then this is just a talk. Now, I tell similar stories. There are some terrific stories. And all these stories, by the way, are not stories of people who won Paramveer Chakra. These are stories of ordinary people like you and me. And one of the questions I always when I look at the people's faces, when I'm doing it face to face, I see a doubt on their face and they says, but I am an advocate. I don't face these circumstances. How is this story relevant to me? Or I work in State Bank of India. What the hell is this story got to do with me? I mean, it's a great story, very inspiring. But मेरे साथ इसका क्या ताल्लुक है? I'll answer that question. So the question I ask my audience is, the day somebody joins the army, what is the difference between the people who join the army and those who join other walks of life, who become doctors or work in a bank or join the railways or become a teacher or become an advocate? What's the difference at the point where we all join these two different professions or two types of professions? The answer I usually get is, you people are more patriotic. Nothing is more nonsensical than this answer. You can ask any Fauji. I never heard the word patriotism in my life. You are more dedicated. How? We come from the same small towns, same villages, same places. How are we more dedicated? You know what the answer is? The day somebody joins the army, or the day somebody becomes a lawyer or a banker or whatever, there is no difference, except perhaps for some character quality which is judged by the interviewer. Beyond that, there is zero difference. You want proof? All right. When I joined the army, I was 16. The day I went for my interview, I had never spoken one single sentence of English. I came from a Punjabi medium school. I read, write, understand Punjabi better than I do anything else. I came from a low middle class family. Part of my life was spent in one room house. How are we different from anybody else? So what is the difference? I'll tell you what is the difference. There are two differences. The magic that happens after people join the army. Before that, there is no magic. One part of the magic is that the army changes your mindset. Here is the good news. Your mindset is in your hands. So whatever I'm going to tell you after this, you, by effort, can change that mindset. And the second difference is, army has a distinct culture which drives people in a certain direction. If you're a leader, even that culture business is in your hands. And that is what leads to superb teamwork like the kind I told you. So we're going to talk about three things, just 3 lessons, 3 things you got to keep in mind, and all of them are going to have stories. First, to create great teams, create a sense of common purpose. I'll come to that. Second, provide outstanding leadership. And third, build a great culture. All right. So these are the 3 things we are going to talk about. Let's start with the first one. Create purposefulness. Now, there is a saying, you can either be an owner or a slave. In most teams, members of the teams do not share the same sense of purpose as the leader. The leader wants to succeed. Managing directors of the companies want fantastic top line, fantastic bottom line, lovely pat, whatever. And what they are not noticing is that the members of the team are treating it as like another job. They're coming at 9 o'clock and going back at 5 o'clock. At 1:30, they're opening a tiffin. Does your team understand that what their real role is? And that role they will not understand by lectures, by the way. You can't stand on a dais and say, gentlemen, we are like a family and we have to do this and that. It won't work like that. But first of all, let's understand what is that role I'm talking about? What is that sense of purpose I'm talking about? Let me give you an example with a story. All the stories are true. I don't like telling personal stories, but this one is personal. So I commanded a Rashtriya Rifles battalion in Kashmir from 1997 to 1999. There was a fair amount of insurgency in those days, a lot of militants. And to those of you who are not aware, Rashtriya Rifle battalions have only a single mandate to kill militants, kill terrorists. So one of my companies was going out in the jungles for 2 days, searching for militants. There was some information. And I, as a CEO, decided to just tag along, not to interfere, but just to go along. I used to go for all operations. So we went up in the jungles and we roamed around for 2 days, or God knows, 2.5 days, and we found nothing. And then we came down the hill into the place where the company was living in tents. By the time we reached, it was already late in the evening, 8:30 or 9 o'clock. And the company commander said, "Sir, your headquarters is 2 hours away. Why don't you have dinner and go?" I said, "Sure." So we decided, I said, why don't we just go down to the langar and find what are the Jawans getting to eat? Okay, so the cookhouse in army is called langar, and the man who looks after that langar is called langar commander. Everything is commander in the army. The langar commander is just a sepoy or a last naik. He's not a senior guy. So as I went there, I found that Jawans were beginning to line up, and the food it was a normal food. There was dal, there was sabzi, there was chawal, there was roti, there was salad. So I called the langar commander and I said, "Beta, we were out for 2-3 days. Why didn't you make something better today for the Jawans?" He said, "Sir, I couldn't have done it because हमें supply में कुछ आया ही नहीं आज. Supply में ना तो chicken आया, ना अंडे आए." So I told the company commander, give him 500 rupees to 1,000 rupees. Tell him to take 3-4 boys with weapons, go to 2 or 3 villages and get all the eggs possible. Buy all the eggs and let there be eggs. Make them right now. And the Jawans who were lining up, I told them, go back to your tents. Everybody gets 2 bags of rum free from me. You have a drink and I have a drink somewhere. And by the time the eggs are going to be made, and then you enjoy your meal. Next morning, I came back to this company and I called the same langar commander and I asked him the question that I was asking you. I said, मुझे ये बताओ, तुम्हारा रोल क्या है? He said, sir, मेरा रोल है खाना बनवाना. I said, खाना अच्छा बने, गंदा बने, उसमें कुछ गिर जाए, टेस्टी बने, उसमें कोई अंतर नहीं है. So this langar commander realized that his CEO is catching him. So he said, नहीं sir, मेरा रोल है अच्छा स्वादिष्ट और हाइजीनिक खाना बनवाना. Now there was improvement. I said, but your pay is not going to change. Whether you make good food or bad food, तेरी तनख्वाह थोड़ा बढ़ेगी. So why should you bother about good food? He said, no sir. When I make sure the food is good, तो जवान्स का मोरल ऊपर हो जाता है. You know, in Hindi they say मुरला ऊपर हो जाता है उनका. They get more motivated. So I said, you are not the Prime Minister of the country. Why are you bothered about morale? Your pay is not going to increase. Why are you concerned about morale of these jawans? So he looked a little surprised. He said, sir, ऐसा थोड़ा है. मैं अगर अच्छा खाना बनाऊंगा, टेस्टी खाना बनवाऊंगा, जवानों का मोरल ऊंचा होगा, तो ये बाहर जाके टेररिस्ट को मारेंगे. I said, that is your damn role. Your role is not making chapatis. You are helping kill terrorists. That is the purpose of your job. Every time you enter the langar, think this, कि मैं जो करने जा रहा हूं ना, इससे लड़कों ने जाके टेररिस्ट मारने हैं. And while I didn't say this, the fact is, every langar commander who's making good food is helping India win the war. You don't have to say, you don't have to go that far. But do we even understand this role? I'm advisor to a company today. Okay, I go and talk to workers there. Do we understand what their role is? What are they contributing? What are they really doing? You ask them, बेटा तेरा क्या काम है? Sir, मेरा काम है, sir, मैं इस machine पे काम करता हूँ. Oh, that's your job description. That's your job description. It's the difference between a teacher who says, हाँ जी, टीचर साहब आपका क्या काम है? मेरा काम है, मैं स्कूल आता हूँ और मुझे सिलेबस कंप्लीट करना है और लड़कों को पास कराना है. That's one teacher. Second teacher, आपका क्या रोल है? सर रोल क्या है? हमारा बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट रोल है सर. मैंने इन लड़कों की जिंदगी बनानी है और इनमें से कम 3-4 लोग होंगे जो हाईएस्ट लेवल पे जाएं. ये मेरा रोल है. The difference between the two is going to be stark. What is your role? And does your team understand what is their role? All right. The understanding of your role is going to make all the difference in the world. It will lift you from ordinariness to greatness. Okay? It will lift you. So the question you have to ask yourself is, when I come to work or when my team members come to work, what are they thinking? Are they thinking, I am an employee? Or are they thinking, I am the owner of my desk? I am the CEO for whoever I am. Okay? Right. What does it look like? This business of understanding your role. Let me tell you another story. This is about a guards battalion which was in Siachen. Now, all of you know what Siachen is. Okay? You can say it's hell on earth in some ways. The temperatures going down to minus 50 degrees. It's something you cannot even begin to imagine what life there is. So on one particular day in this particular battalion, the Pakistanis did some shelling from across the line of control, some artillery shelling, and they killed 2 jawans of this battalion, or 3 jawans of this battalion. On the same day, a message came that the Subedar Major of the battalion, Subedar Major is the senior most jawan. He's like a CO. He's only one. The Subedar Major of the battalion, Devan Singh, his daughter, who was in 20s, had died in an accident. So the adjutant called the Subedar Major and told him, then he gave him the news. So Subedar Major started crying. He cried and cried because it was such a shocking news. And then the adjutant said, don't worry, the weather is bad, but the weather will clear up. The CO is organizing a helicopter. We will send you down from the helicopter, down to the base. From there, we will send you, you can take a flight to wherever Chandigarh. From there, you can take another flight to so-and-so place, Delhi. From there, you can take a train, and we have calculated. Then you take a bus, and you will be in home well in time for the cremation. So after he started crying, Sudha Major Diwan Singh said, "Sir, जो हुआ वो तो मेरी जिंदगी का सबसे बुरा दिन है, पर सर अपने लड़के भी तो मरे ना आज, वो भी तो अपना ही फैमिली है, तो सर मैं तो उनका पहले फ्यूनरल करके जाऊंगा." So Subedar Major Diwan Singh climbed the post, which took him 24 hours, oversaw the cremation, which took 2 days because there is no oxygen. The mortal remains take time to burn. There is very little wood. And after doing everything for 3 days, nicely, then he walked down again and then he went home. This is what a person who understands his role looks like. Again, it's not a story of somebody who got a medal. It's a story of another person. So I wanted to make these points to begin with, so you understand मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ, ये role क्या बात कर रहा हूँ. What is the sense of purpose? So how do you craft a role? First, you have to understand how should you do it. Then you can tell your team to do it. First thing, please remember, how do you define your role? जितना आप अपने role को narrowly define करोगे, narrowly like, what is my role? I am an advocate. That is my role. जितना आप इसको narrowly define करोगे, उतने ही कम लोग आपको follow करेंगे. People who work in corporate sector, who think their role is to take care of their own personal self, to make sure to get good appraisals, to take care of just the family members, 3, 4, 5 log. You know how many people follow them? Same 3, 4 people. Nobody else. Everybody else is doing, hello sir, good morning sir, sir you are very nice, but they're not following them. People who say, no, I have to take care of my team. This team must prosper so long as they are under me. You know who follows them? Their whole team. And then there are people who say, I have to take care of my team, but I also live in this society. I must take care of at least the society where I live, these few buildings, and I must take interest in its well-being. How many people follow them? That society. Imagine if Mr. Modi was to say, my role is, what is my role? To win elections, to go to the office, that's all. इसके अलावा क्या role कर सकता हूँ? Who would be following him? The second thing is, when you are thinking of your role, please remember, let us say you are a teacher. I'm just giving an example. Your boss, the management, is not judging you as a teacher. This is a fundamental mistake we make. The management is looking at you. Are you big enough, competent enough to fulfill the next step? Can you be made a principal? This is how you look at your role. Am I just doing what I'm doing? A lot of people are doing a great job wherever they are. But the management is looking at you. If I make him senior, if I give him a department, will he be able to handle it? So unless you enlarge your role, how is the management going to look at you like that? I've seen a lot of people who say, I work so hard, मैं इतना जोर लगाता हूँ, पर मैं वहीं का वहीं हूँ. अरे भैया, आप तो जोर लगा रहे हो in your present job, in your present designation, but you're not understanding. People who want to promote you are wanting to know, they're anxious to know, will you fill the next role? And thirdly, your role should be such that you become a role model. Are you a role model? Are you a role model even to your own children? I'm sure many of you are. I'm very certain many of you are role models in your own teams. This is just a question, not a criticism. But these are the questions you have to ask yourself. Am I a role model? Or am I just another person doing what everybody else does? The last point on this issue. You may say, बात तो ठीक है, पर why do I have to be a role model? I can be fine. I go to the office, I come from office, I'm earning my pay, I get appraisals, काम चल रहा है. तो ये एक्स्ट्रा एफर्ट का क्या चक्कर है? I'll tell you a secret. There comes a time in your life, especially after you retire, when you begin to have a doubt. Is life over? And the next doubt is, what did I do? What did I do? Have you seen people who become chief justices, who become generals, who become, senior managers in banks? When they are serving, they think everybody's going to remember me. And 6 months after their retirement, they find nobody remembers you. Nobody remembers you. Because you were another person. You were just another person taking care of yourself. My yardstick is this. I have a granddaughter. My yardstick is this. When she grows up and says, Dadaji, what did you do when you were in the army? I shouldn't have to say, what did I do? Let me think. मैंने क्या किया? कुछ खास किया नहीं मैंने actually. किया बेटा, हम जाते थे ऑफिस जाते थे, आ जाते थे शाम को वापस. Be prepared, because the day this question is confronted, it'll be too late. So my advice to you is this: the life that you're leading, the work that you're doing, you are the hero of your own story. You are the script writer, you are the director, you are the producer, and God knows you're also the villain. Please write the good story. Understand your role, become larger than life. You will have plenty to talk about. When you lean back in your sofa set after retirement, you'll say, भाई जिंदगी तो ठीक ही निकाली, काम तो ठीक ही चल गया. Don't you want that satisfaction? Start with purposefulness. Start with your understanding your own role. Only then you will instill this in your team. We come to the second point. Provide outstanding leadership. I have an uncle who's rich. Everybody should have a rich uncle. So one day I asked him, I said, I want to buy a house. There's only one house I bought in my life. I said, मैंने घर खरीदना है, तो कोई advice है आपकी? He said, हाँ, you must see 3 things when you buy a house. Location, location, and location. You want to learn about leadership? There are 3 things to do. Lead by example, lead by example, lead by example. If you want to forget all the remaining talk, you want to forget all the stories about leadership, please remember this one. You cannot be a leader without leading by example. You can't even be a damn good father or a husband, because people will do namaste, touch your feet, sir, aap bahut achhe ho. All that happens to all of us, by the way. But deep inside, people do what you do. People do not do what they say. If saying was the magic, then so many CEOs and MDs I've seen who stand on the stage and say, gentlemen, we have passion. We are the company. We are customer centric. We are employee centric. We are like a family. And everybody standing there says, when will you stop talking? Okay. Now the question comes, when should we lead by example? This question was actually asked by somebody. He said, okay, but when should you lead by example? When you have a project, when you are on a task, or when? The answer to this question was given to me by a Fauji barber. His name was Naik Rooplal. I knew the answer, but I have never forgotten it after he told me. And here is the story. 4th of June, 1997, almost 26 years ago. One morning, we were going in a गाड़ियों के एक ना काफिले में जा रहे थे, कॉन्वॉय में जा रहे थे. जो सड़क थी वो कच्ची थी. It was a track. एक साइड में हिल थी, दूसरे साइड में खेत थे और एक नदी थी. कुपवाड़ा में. तो जो militant थे, they had planted a lot of explosive under that road. It is called improvised explosive device. उसको दबा देते हैं, फिर उसमें से वायर बाहर निकलती है, एक छोटा सा मैकेनिज्म बना होता है, एक छोटा सा एंटेना होता है, and they sit on the hill in the line of sight. They have a VHF transmitter or a radio set, and the vehicle comes on top of that. They just press it, and you are blown. So my vehicle had already gone over it. I was already 10 minutes ahead. Maybe they were not there at that time, or it didn't work, or whatever happened. The next vehicle, after 10 minutes of my battalion, got blown up. I had just met those people. वो गाड़ी इतनी ऊपर गई that side में there were eucalyptus trees. It took 2 turns and smashed against the road. One major and 2 jawans died instantly. One young lieutenant and 2 of his 2 soldiers, they were badly injured and trapped inside that steel. तो जो militant थे, उन्होंने ऊपर से फायर करना शुरू कर दिया. They thought, let's kill everybody and take away the weapons. We heard the bang. हमने क्या, पूरी district heard the bang. We turned our vehicles around. Then somebody said, अरे गाड़ियों में मत जाओ, उन्होंने और लगाई होंगी ऐसी ID. They will blow you also up. So we started running towards the firing. Okay, all of us were carrying AK-47. I was also carrying an AK-47. मेरे साथ एक मेजर साहब दौड़ रहे थे और दूसरी तरफ was this barber रूपलाल. So this major, his name was Dev Anand Singh Loha Maror. He stopped me. You know, अगर आपने आर्मी के सीनियर ऑफिसर्स को देखा है तो कर्नल्स एंड अबव अपने कॉलर के ऊपर एक लाल रंग की चीज लगाते हैं, यहाँ पे बोलते हैं कॉलर डॉग और व्हाटएवर, लाल रंग की लगाते हैं. बट दैट इज टू बी worn only in peace stations. It is not supposed to be worn in war places or where you're fighting militants or Kashmir. मैं सीओ नया बना था, 10 ही दिन हुए थे मुझे, मैंने वो लगाया हुआ था. So Major Dev said, sir, take it off. They will know, once we reach there, they will know you are the CO and they will take an aim at you. And I said, yeah, I will take it off. But I did not take it off immediately because my mind was full of many things. We were still running and we heard on the radio set that some people had died. We were still running and this barber Rooplal stopped me and he said, sir, मैं एक बात कर सकता हूँ? I stopped. मैंने कहा, हाँ बोलो. He said, sir, ये जो मेजर साहब ने बात की ना, बड़ी पते की बात की सर. ये कोई बहादुरी थोड़ा सर जो लगा के घूम रहे हो आप. I'll tell you his exact words. कहता सर अभी आपको मार देगा कोई, फिर भगदड़ मच जाएगी, तो सर ये क्या तमाशा है, इसको तो ना नहीं पहनना चाहिए. I said, हाँ रूपलाल, मैं समझ गया, मैं उसको उतारने लगा हूँ. कहता नहीं 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 सर, मेरी ये सलाह नहीं है. मेरी सलाह ये है, इसको आज मत उतारना. इनफैक्ट सर इसको 3 महीने मत उतारना. सर आप तो लीडर हो ना, आप तो कमांडर हो, जवानों को ये नहीं शक पड़ना चाहिए, 2-3 लोग मरते हैं, हमारा सीओ घबरा जाता है, आपको तो उदाहरण देना है सर. Can you think of a more beautiful, more powerful, more wonderful advice? A Jawan of the army is telling his CO, die if you have to, but do not set a wrong example. This is how deep is the knowledge of leadership in the army among people. And why should we do that? Because only when you do this, people follow you. You think these Jawans who are following army officers, Kargil mein 450 log mare gaye, people who are following people on the slopes, they are following just like that? Do you know there is no appraisal in the army? There is no bonus at the end of the year. There is no extra money for getting shot. People are still following, no? Same countrymen, because they know that their leaders will take more trouble, more risk than them. And only when you do that, your team starts becoming, feel safe. I'll come back to this word. One of the biggest motivators is when your team feels safe under you. Have you seen bosses जिसके नीचे team वाले सोचते हैं पता नहीं यार क्या होना है, जब बोनस की बारी आएगी पता नहीं ये let down कर देगा हमें. जिस दिन ट्रबल होगी ना, ये मुझे लेट डाउन कर देगा, ये ऊपर वाले को जाके बोल देगा गलती मेरी है. Have you seen those bosses? I'm sure you've seen them. They are the ones who don't have a good team. Teams want to feel safe, that he'll protect me, he'll protect my job, he'll protect my appraisal, he'll be fair. He'll be fair when there's trouble. When there's trouble, he'll support me. And how will you do it if the team sees कि आप तो खुद ही घबराए हुए हो, खुद ही डरे हुए हो? That is the advice I took from Rooplal, and in his honor, I did not remove those collar dogs for 3.5 years. मैंने 3.5 साल नहीं उतारे जब तक मैं कश्मीर में रहा. And a lot of people used to say, why didn't you take them off? I said, यार रूपलाल ने कुछ बताया था, मैं तो यही करूंगा, ये ठीक है. And I'm happy to report that I didn't die. Okay, so therefore, please lead by example. This is how you'll create a great team. Please make your people feel safe. Please be fair. If you are biased, if you don't like somebody's face, or you don't like somebody because he's not your type, or you don't like somebody because he talks back, if you are unfair, 100% your team will have gossip and politics. आपने सुना है ना, यार पॉलिटिक्स बढ़ी है हमारी कंपनी में. पता है क्यों है पॉलिटिक्स? बिकॉज पीपल थिंक उसके अलावा काम नहीं चलना, फेयरनेस से तो काम नहीं चलना. बट इफ द अप्रेजल सिस्टम इज transparent, if everybody is going to be rewarded based on his performance, KPIs, KRS, whatever, things will be fine. अरे नहीं यार हमारा नहीं काम चलना, वो तो जानता है बॉस को, वो तो उसके गांव का है, वो तो पहले से इकट्ठे थे पुरानी कंपनी में. एंड देन वी करे पॉलिटिक्स बढ़ी है, गॉसिप बढ़ी है. बी फेयर. This demotivates people, it breaks up the teams. Clarity of communication and roles. Everybody should be clear what his role is, what is he got to do. There are a lot of bosses who purposefully say give confusing orders because they are not clear. वो बोलेंगे ये भी कर देना, वो भी कर देना, देख लेना यार, कर देना इसको 3-4 दिन में कर देना. They are not clear. You want a great team? People are hungry for specific orders. Even in the army, people are hungry for specific orders. Remember that. They want bosses who have the dum, the courage to say the right thing, and to say, do this, and I am responsible. And the last point is, and this is a surprising one, you may not have heard this. The way to create hard-working, high-achieving teams is to let them work, to stop having these damn meetings. The number one demotivator today's world in corporate sector I watch is disrupting workflow. At the drop of the hat, the boss says, let's have a meeting here. सबको बुला लो. जिसका काम नहीं उसको भी बुला लो. Coordination हो जाएगा. Stop it. Have a rule. 15 minute की meeting and out. The moment you disrupt the workflow, the high achievers will not work because वो काम कर रहा है. He's, you know, when you get engrossed in some work, those of you who like to paint or do something, you get engrossed in that work. You are in a flow. What if somebody disrupts that flow after every half an hour and says, थोड़ा उधर आ जाओ यार, वो बुला रहे हैं आपको, थोड़े बात करेंगे. Right? Do not disrupt the workflow. Now the question comes, all right, this is great, but then there are people who don't work. What should I do as a leader? As a team, should I be jazz? Should I not say much? भाग जाएगा वो तो अगर मैं ज्यादा डांटूंगा तो उसको. No. The secret to correcting mistakes is this. Remember, all mistakes are not equal. If somebody has made an error of judgment, what is error of judgment? Somebody decided to take initiative and did a certain thing. Maybe you were not there. Maybe you had given him, "Apne aap kar lena." Maybe he had gone outstation. He does something which is not as per what you wanted, but he did it with the best intention and he took initiative. Such errors should be completely overlooked. All you should do is tell him, "Acha, theek hai, kar diya na, acha kiya. But next time ask me." Or, isko na aise kar lena agli baar. No, don't say ask me. Say aise kar lena. Because if you don't do that, if you start bullying people who are because of error of judgment, nobody will take initiative in your department or in your company. Why will they take it? If they are going to be bullied for taking initiative. So what will happen is, you want tigers, but what are you creating? Rabbits. Second is error of omission, error of laziness, which is the maximum error. People don't do things. When I was serving, sometime when I gave a task, the officer would come and say, "Sir, actually, I will tell you how it is to be done." I said, No. Half the objections are because people don't want to work. First, please do it. So when there is error of laziness or omission, such people should be pulled up. And third is error of intention. जानबूझ के गलती कर रहा है, पैसे बना रहा है, छेड़खानी कर रहा है. Such people should be punished immediately. These are the 3 ways to deal with errors. I'm going to quickly make the last 2 points in this leadership business, and then we'll close with the culture bit. Great teams, as a leader, remember, great teams are also made when you select the people properly and onboard them properly. What should you look for in the candidate the most? Learn from the army. Everybody looks at their background, their knowledge, their experience. Why is he leaving the last company? How many companies has he served? What is his education? What does he look like? How is his communication? Great. Please look at his character, which means look at his attitude. Is that easy to see? No. In 1 or 2 rounds of interview, it's very hard. I would recommend take on a good psychometric, not biometric, psychometric. It is the attitude which is going to give anybody the altitude. Secondly, when you are recruiting a person or when he comes and joins, forget about what impression he's making. What impression are you making? Have you seen companies where a man comes for selection or recruitment and is sitting on the reception for 2-3 hours? Or after he's applied, nobody replies to him for the first 10 days. Or after he's paid for the interview, nobody tells him the outcome for 20 days. Forget his impression. You have given him the clear impression that your company is dhila. Yahan dheere kaam chalta hai bhaiya, dheere chalao. And when they join, please do not treat onboarding as a tick mark. Make sure they are actually shown everything. Make sure they are properly briefed, even formally briefed by everybody, with presentations. Give them a professional feel. Give them a great start. The last point on this segment is about attrition. A lot of people say, "Log chhod ke chale jate hain." When I was CEO first time, when people used to leave, I used to say, "Why have they left?" The HR used to give you just one line answer. "Sir, usko zyada paise mil gaye." That's a lazy answer. Do people work for money? Sure. Yes, money is important. But do people only work for money? No. Nobody wants to leave a company and disrupt his life when he's just settling down. Nobody wants his CV to look bad, that he's jumping from company to company. You know why people leave? People don't leave jobs. People leave bosses. People always leave bad bosses. What is a bad boss? Not only a boss who's sarcastic, who's, nasty, who violates human dignity by doing gali galoch, by bullying, by nitpicking. Those are, of course, bad bosses. Bad bosses are also those bosses who don't understand that people below them are suffering. So there was a particular project in Bihar, one of the infrastructure project. My company was an engineering company. People were leaving from there. I went there. I interviewed everybody from chai wala to top guy. You know what I discovered? The villain was admin manager, a junior guy who was not listening to anyone. Everybody's admin was bad. So people said, "यार, अगर administration भी खराब है, खाना भी खराब है, रहना भी खराब है, company छोड़ दो." And the manager there, the leader, didn't bother. So the question you should ask is, am I the type of boss people love to meet? When they come in the morning, are you the now you don't have to be you don't have to be popular for the sake of popularity. Happiness is not the goal of running a company. The goal is to achieve results, but happiness is a damn good idea. Third and the last segment, build a great culture. What is culture? Culture of a company is, first of all, every company has a culture. Okay, whether you make it or you don't make it, sabka culture hai. Political parties have a culture, clubs have a culture, companies have a culture, Fauj has a culture. And Fauj is a great culture. So, when you walk into, say, a sarkari office and you want some work, and the guy says, "Pehle to banda aaya hi late hai, 10 बजे की वो आया ही 10:45 पे है, फिर उसने अपना झोला रख के वो कहीं चला गया, फिर वापस आके बोलता है, यार ऐसा है, फाइल फुल आज तो नहीं मिलेगी, हफ्ते बाद आ जाना." Now you go to a private sector company, you go to a private sector bank. Is the response the same? No. You fly Indigo. You see how focused they are on time? You know why? That's the culture. Culture is what people think works. If gossip works, there'll be a culture of gossip. If you allow people to talk loosely, that will be the culture. If you allow people to come late, that will be the culture. So please remember the great saying that Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. You can make any fancy plan in this world. It will not work unless the people who are following it, the culture follows it. And where does the culture come from? You, from the top. When I say you, I mean from the top, especially in family-owned businesses. Culture comes always from the top. It is not like, it doesn't work against gravity. Okay? Culture is what people say, हाँ, इससे मेरा काम चल जाएगा. अगर काम नहीं करने से काम चल जाएगा, तो that will become culture. And this is how it works. Indian Army, this great organization, runs on that culture. I can give you a million examples. I'm going to tell you one other story, and then I'll wind up, and you will realize what it is. So how should you create a culture? First of all, you have to know what you want to create, which parts you want to fix. After you've decided, you have to communicate clearly to your team. Look, punctuality is not our strong point. We are going to be punctual. Or quality has not been our culture. We are going to focus only on quality. Or whatever. There is too much gossip. Next man who gossips, I'm going to cut his appraisal. But most importantly, you have to set a personal example. You cannot be, say, Mr. Vijay Mallya and say, you know what Mr. Vijay Mallya was telling his company, Kingfisher, we are losing money, please cut cost, be austere, work with less. And then people saw him coming out of his own jet on his, God knows which birthday was it, in Goa, spending lakhs of rupees. You know the Walmart CEO, when he comes to India, what he does? One of the things he does as a demonstration is, he walks around and he picks some dustbin and he puts his hand inside, takes out the papers, and he points out if there is a paper on one side, it's blank. He says, yeah, please use this. Because Walmart culture is to cut costs. I've done a detailed study of Indigo. It's part of my book that is getting published in the next 2-3 months. The book is not about Indigo, by the way. It is about culture. And I've done a detailed study. They are setting example at every level of being in time. Secondly, your culture will not become culture unless it is part of every process, every SOP, every procedure, every reward, every punishment. You want this culture? Then give reward to people who are following it and punish people who are not following it. You remember the case of an officer, an Indian Army officer, who tied a Kashmiri in front of his vehicle? He was trying to save some CRPF Jawans because people were throwing stones. He tied a Kashmiri. Okay, not supposed to be done probably. A lot of halla gulla on television. Our Indian army is using people as a human shield, this, that. What did the chief do? General Bipin Rawat, God bless his soul. You know what he did? He gave that officer a medal. I know why he gave it. He said, he's our boy. We trained him. He took initiative. If I punish him, nobody will take initiative. This is not our culture. Same officer next year was found with a woman in a hotel in Kashmir where he was not supposed to be. What did the army do? They court-martialed him. Because the second was error of intention against the culture of the Indian army. You don't mess with women. So it must be reflected in what you do. Right? For example, in the army, you don't discuss politics in the mess. Is it a surprise that we are an apolitical army, unlike Pakistanis? And third point is, culture is very hard to change. Please persist. Culture is the last thing that will change. First, you have to change the SOPs, the procedure, the tradition, the symbolism, the rewards, the punishment, all the jing bang. So let me end with a story that will tell you army's culture. Okay, this is from Kargil. And one of the Rajput battalions was attacking a certain point, very high point, more than 5,000 meters. And the only way to climb that hill without getting shot was to climb on a cliff. And there was ice on the cliff. It took them 2 days to fix the aids and the ropes to climb. But finally they climbed. And the two Pakistanis were surprised. They killed everybody. One of the people they killed was Captain Taimur Malik of Pakistan Army. He was a commando, but he was on loan to the Frontier Force. And then these soldiers did what the Indian Army does. They, with great effort, they dug graves. They wrapped up these bodies nicely, and with full military honors, they buried them. Remember, this is Kargil. You've just reached the top of the hill. It's a place where you lose breath after walking a few steps, and you're making all this effort of digging and doing all this. Captain Taimur Malik's grandfather had been a judge in Pakistan, and he was in England. He went to the Indian embassy and he said, "My people in the house are distraught. They're crying. Is it possible to somehow find my grandson's body and send it back to Pakistan?" So from embassy, it came to the government of India. The government of India spoke to the army chief and said, "It's not an order, but I don't know, can it be done?" So the army chief, General Malik, called up the CO. His name was Konsam Himalaya Singh, later retired as the Lieutenant General, and said, "It's an unusual request. Can you do this?" And you know what K.H. Singh said? He said, "Sir, we'll do it. But I have condition. In the Indian Army's culture, we do not protect officers more than we protect Jawans. We do not in battlefield treat officers more safely than Jawans. So therefore, I want permission to dig up all bodies, and we will send all bodies, including all the Pakistani Jawans' bodies, to Pakistan." And you know what? That is exactly what was done. Using Mi-17 helicopters, all the bodies are transported back. That is how deep the culture runs. Right? So that's what it is. Let me end by saying to those of your team members who wonder, great, okay, I like it, but why should I really invest so much emotion into teamwork? Tell them this. Winning in life is much harder when you put additional stress of foolishly competing with each other. It is like running the race of life and keeping a bori of cement on your head. Why should you be competing with your friends? Compete with the enemy, compete with the competition. Isn't it harder? When you're worried about your colleagues, you're all the time looking at the colleague. पता नहीं क्या कर रहा है, इसको बॉस ने बुलाया था, पता नहीं क्या बोला होगा. Right? Secondly, all bosses want the company to succeed, the department to succeed. They don't care if you start competing with a colleague. If they see you succeeding alone and not coordinating, believe me, they will never respect you. Nor will anybody else. And finally, please remember, success in life doesn't come from a quota system. ये नहीं है कि अगर आपको 4 नंबर मिल गए या आपके बॉस ने किसी और को थोड़ा बेनिफिट दे दिया तो वो आपके खाते में से जा रहा है. It's not coming out of the same body. He can succeed and you can equally succeed. Two people, two boys from my school, Punjabi medium school, joined the army. Surinder Singh Chikara and myself, both of us retired as generals. What the hell? We didn't have to compete with each other. That is all I had to tell you today. Thank you for listening patiently. Should there be any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, I've already taken a lot of time. It's all yours.
Thank you for explaining so illustratively. And I think if youngsters are watching, they will be quite motivated to take as armed forces as one of the careers. And especially, you're told that it's not essential from which background you come, zeal, the spirit, the movement to move forward. This is by Manoj Kamra. He says, please suggest whether the work culture applicable in Indian scenario vis-a-vis the other countries.
I saw the question. Manoj Kamra has asked this question. If the question is whether the work culture applicable in Indian scenario compared to Japan, USA cited, except defense sector, no, of course, work culture is different everywhere. Like I said, every organization has different work culture. I've had the occasion of having done an exercise with the US Army. They, of course, have a slightly different work culture. There's no doubt about it. In some things, they are far more serious than we are. In some things, they're far more law-abiding than they are. You know, in the US Army, if you're found driving after having had a drink, that's the end of your career. So I really can't give you a larger answer, but culture really depends on the leadership of that particular place. And so it is very specific.
So the last question we will be taking, like you have taken the wide spectrum of this topic of secret of building and retaining teams. What is the, if we say that, what is the main success mantra or the key mantra, which according to you runs, as they say in law, we say that a common thread running between them. What is that common thread which you find that the leadership should have normally to the effect that it brings best of the team?
The common thread is be a dad, be a father to your team, irrespective of your age. Okay? Too many people stand on the stage and say, we are like family. But do you treat your team like a family? Really? There was a time when people used to ask me, why do people working under you always get great reports? Some of them probably may or may not deserve it. And I said, no, they all deserve it. Would you give a bad report to your son? When it comes to your son competing against somebody else in a college, will you say, नहीं, मेरे लड़के को रहने दो, दूसरे बंदे को उसको vacancy दे दो? Be a dad to your team, protect them, make them feel good about themselves. It is not transactional. Dramabaji will not do, talk will not do. Nobody's fool. Everybody understands you really mean it. From your, I would go as far to say, they must understand that you actually love them. That is the common thread. Be a dad.
Point well hammered and well taken. Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge. And as they normally say, that team would always mean together everyone achieves more. And I think the way you have illustrated that, there wouldn't be a better way to illustrate that. And there are many takeaways from this session. People will actually cherish it. And I'm seeing on the YouTube that people are actually going gaga about the session. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, stay blessed. And on Saturday, we will be having a session with a former judge from Delhi High Court, Justice Manmohan Singh, on the overview of Prevention of Money Laundering Act as amended till date. Do join with us at Saturday. Thank you. Namaskar. Thank you.